Hello, and welcome to Crafting a Revolution, the podcast. My name is Katie Freeman, and I'm one of your hosts. Every week, we bring you interviews with makers of all kind from all over the world that either identify as female or non-binary. Today's guest is Rachel David. Rachel was raised in Maryland and currently a resident of North Carolina, is a blacksmith, sculptor, designer, and maker. Her metalwork practice is holistic, encompassing art, furniture, architectural elements, activism, collaborations, and gardening. The work focuses on social and environmental justice, community, and communication, analyzing the many layers of colonization, restraints, and expectations across bodies and landscapes. And just so you know, there is a bit of adult salty language used in this episode. Before we hop into the interview with Rachel, I want to give a big shout out and thanks to the patrons over on Patreon. So thank you so much, Candace at CJ Woodgrain, Lee at Lee Runyon, Annette 513 Woodworks, Katie Thompson, Women of Woodworking, Kevin Lefty's Woodshop, Christy Twisted Twine, Jeremy Speece, Sammy Go Sammy Lee, Rachel Moody Makes, Bonnie Tool Mom Bonnie, toolmomstore.com, Laura Oakley Soap Company, Brandy Studio Obey, Lee the Rainbow Carver, Ellen Little Bear Furniture, and Ethan Carter Designs. Thank you all so very much for your ongoing support of the podcast. And if you would like to help support the podcast, please hang out to the very end of the episode so you can learn how to do that. And now let's head on into the conversation with Rachel. Well, Rachel, I always ask my guests to introduce themselves. Would you do that for me?
My name is Rachel David. I am a metalworker focusing on forge work. I recently relocated to Western North Carolina, where I built a building and a cabin, and I have a big land project alongside with my metalworking practice.
Okay, awesome. So did I hear that correctly? Like you built a cabin and a shop? Like, so you got to build your dream shop then?
Yeah.
This is nice. Me over here not being jealous at all.
So for 16 years, I lived in New Orleans, and the last decade, I had a 1,000 square foot shop with 10-foot ceilings. And it was like a high production, reasonably high production for a mostly one person practice. Mm-hmm. And I found this property in Waynesville that has a giant building that's basically split into two parts. And so now I have a 3,500 square foot shop that used to be a full of trash hay barn. And so my friends and I knocked over the roof and salvaged all the lumber. And I put this steel building in, and my friends came and we dug foundations and footings and everything. And so I could put all of these beautiful cranes up, and I could, you can see them in the one of them. So I've been
also very jealous of those, by the way. I mean, I power carve, sometimes I'm power carving like large logs. And at the end of last year, I hit 40, and it was like immediately that day that I hit 40, my body's like, nope. Like you are no longer allowed to lift such heavy items. Like on your own.
Get you an engine hoist at least. Like yes. Those are, I bring it everywhere. Yeah. I just bring I hit 40 in January also.
Okay, yeah. Mine was September last year, so it's like, 40 hits differently. I'll just say that. Like
I'm not psyched about it, to be honest. No. Like a lot. Like I'm looking forward to my 40s. It's the best. I'm like, okay. Good. I'm so glad you are.
I'm looking forward to it for like mentally, like, I feel like mentally, like, and as like an official grown up, and that's in quotes for people who are listening to this, that like I'm at a different space, like much further along maturity wise and just like friends wise and all that stuff. Like that's great. But like physical work that like you and I do, that part is like, yeah, not looking forward to the extreme downhill slope. It seems to be coming at me.
I am a wild child. I have Peter Pan syndrome.
Yeah.
I will not grow up.
You will not grow.
I am more feral. Well, in my 20s, I was very feral, but in my 30s, I was pretty housebroken.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
anymore. I live
Okay, so I'm gonna step back from, geeking out over your awesome huge shop and ask, I want to know like the bigger story of Rachel, from like baby Rachel to like how you got to this point where you get to have this big shop space and work with metal all day long.
Okay. Well, I have always made stuff, and I come from a family who are very, very supportive and also very creative people. Um, my mother was a potter for her career, and I did craft shows with her and thought that I wasn't going to do them because it was really, really awful and hard. And we'll leave that right there and for about 25 years. And then, or I guess 10 or 15 years. And then my dad does still, he is a engineer, but he did a lot of woodworking. Would always let me, he had me on a table saw when I was a little kid and like all sorts of cool stuff. And so really, really supportive and engaging parents who wanted me and my two siblings to be creative and just fostered our interests in really, really great ways. Very, very special people. Flash forwards, I took a metalworking shop in 7th grade, shop class in 7th grade. And I loved that.
I had shop class in like middle school, but it was like wood. We didn't have like a metal shop
I
class.
was very into shop class.
Mm-hmm.
I got farther than anybody else, so I got to do some metalworking there.
That's awesome.
I was very into it. I have always made stuff. Like that's the thing. It's like I have always been super hands-on, super tactile, super physical. Like the physicality of this practice is some part of what makes it so work for me so well, is that I can't keep my hands off of stuff. So then flash forwards, I went to school for music first, and then I learned to weld in college, and then dropped out and worked in a plastic factory overnight, and then did my teacher, the woman who taught me how to weld, I was so interested in her and what she was doing and everything about her. So I was like babysitting for her kids and walking them to school after I got off of work because I worked third shift. And she had some health problems that like made it so that it was very hard for her to drive at that moment. And so I would take the kids to school and then come back and work in her husband at the time stone carving business, doing filing and office work for my second job. And then she would teach me how to weld, and then I would sleep, and then I would go to work.
Sleep for like an hour and a half or something like
that. I mean,
yeah.
I was like 19 and 20. Like,
you don't need sleep at that age, right?
No, and I was so jazzed, and I probably slept at work. I can't remember anything that I did at that job. Like, I really can't. I know, like, I know that I did a lot of boxing. Like, I put bags in boxes. I stacked the boxes. I got paid something.
Right.
I can't remember anything else. I think it's good. Like, I don't have a good memory, so I kind of think that that's a good quality of mine, where sometimes it's very, very annoying, but I also think that it's kind of
Yeah. There's definitely moments where it's like, it's okay that I don't remember that, right?
like it made it that I never fight in relationships. I'm like, I mean, I guess I believe you. I feel very different right now, but I guess I believe you. But I'm gullible. So anyway, so I had the reason that I was doing all this working was that I had stopped doing music. And that's why I was at that school. But she really coasted me along, and her name is Elizabeth Meadows, and she's still practicing, and she is amazing. She's a super special lady. I would suggest looking her up.
Okay.
She's really cool. She is in school right now doing stuff, and I just like have so much respect for people who go back to school later in life. Not that she's old, she's actually
Right.
just alarmingly not that much older than me, but she's so mature. She's just like she just is really, really admirable and noteworthy. And I feel really special that like I owe her a call. Anyway, it's hard, right? It's always
Yes.
it's kind of like, oh, I want to be in touch with you all the time. I think about her all the time. Anyway,
Right.
so then I left Ohio and I went to the Evergreen State College in Washington, and I was doing welding and training at Boeing and like doing this stuff. And then I was in class, in metal shop class, and my teacher was like, if you get that hot and hammer on it, you'll get it to do what you want it to do. And I was like, what? That's cool. What is that?
Yep.
And so that kind of took me down this path. In my last quarter in college, I got to take a class at Penland, because Evergreen has no rules, and it's great. And I'm not not really an academic person, but they got like a grant to do that. So then when I was in Penland, I got a job working for this glass blowing equipment building company, and they at the time were located in New Orleans. And so I moved down there to work at that job. And then Hurricane Katrina. And then ended up riding my bike from Asheville to Kentucky after it was really nice, after a beautiful stop at Ida in Tennessee. And then I went back to New Orleans and like did all sorts of stuff like crazy post Katrina early 20-year-olds would do. They managed a big giant, I had a shop in a building before the storm, and I was one of the only people who came back, and so I ended up managing the building, and it became a really wonderful hub of arts and activity and like activism, and wonderful stuff happened there. Also really fucked up stuff. But that space was very cheap. And since I had to move my bed every time it rained, also, it,
Yeah.
it was cheap. And so that allowed me like having that space. And then I had a job I was a preparator at a couple of museums. And so I had like very intense, but very part-time job. And so I could just like do my thing and then make money and then do my thing. So like the combination of low overhead and a reasonable job just was wonderful. And my community in New Orleans is beyond beautiful. Like I love my friends so much. I miss them every day. I'm also really happy to have moved because it just wasn't okay for me anymore. So then in 2010, I moved, and in 2011, actually, I moved out of that big building into my own space. And it was a great move, and it was small, but it was mine. I wasn't going to get evicted. I could do what I needed and live my life in a way that was pretty great. And then it became time to move again 10 years later. Like 10 years, that's a long time for someone to stay. I mean, I'd already been in New Orleans for like more than 5 years. So, you know, then I had been on the road a lot trying to figure out what I was doing with myself, because it was kind of like I'm single. I've been single a long time, most of my life. I don't owe anything to anyone. Like at that time, I didn't even have a dog. So like nothing was governing any decision.
Right.
And so I was house sitting at a friend of mine's in Tennessee, near like between Johnson City and Boone. And I was just like still smitten by these mountains. But I decided that Boone wasn't going to work right for me. And then I had always been doubtful about Asheville, but then I like found this place on the internet on just like a commercial property. Yeah. And it's like far enough from Asheville that I do not live in Asheville. I am in the country.
Right.
And I am like on the side of the hill, and it's cool. But this property is a big building. It has a lot of electricity already coming here, which really saved a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it just had a lot of potential. And then the plague and everything weirder. And then weirder and weirder. And now maybe all those duck and cover exercises from elementary school are going to come in handy, right?
Yes, maybe.
Maybe. Bad.
I know.
But so that's how I ended up here. And like, because of having like, basically because I was very fortunate I was in the right place at the right time. I've always been a very hard worker. Like I throw down. And people trust me with knowing that like I will work like a dog. And that work will be pretty good. It'll be the best of my ability. And so I got to do all this weird, questionable stuff in this big building, which really gave me experience to then work on my own building, which then gave me experience to work on a much nicer building. And I mean, shoot, it sucks that capitalism puts me in like that it's capitalism.
Yeah.
That's it. And like, it's weird. I sell luxury items to rich people. I trade bashed up metal for money. And I don't even really do a great job trading it for enough money, but like I don't have a high standard of living. So
yeah. Well, I'm not necessarily surprised about your stint in New Orleans, because I feel like a lot of super creative people, right? It's like a huge hub of like creativity. Creativity, and
it's a magical community.
It is. It really is. I mean, I've only been there once, and I was there for like a class, so I didn't necessarily like get to hang out a lot, right? In the area. But it just felt like, I don't know. Like if there's any place you can be yourself, you can be yourself in New Orleans. Like
Mostly. I'm
Yeah.
like, also it's partial. It's very hard to exist there if you're just trying to like do your little thing.
Mm-hmm.
And because I sell work to rich people, a lot of like it a lot of people were pretty hesitant to invest many thousands of dollars in a house that's underwater.
Mm,
And so I ended up really not having that much of a client base down there. My client base migrated to the Northeast
mm-hmm.
5 or 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So now moving has kind of put me in the middle of my clients, which is fine.
Right. I
It's
mean,
like a day
were they finding you from like online, your client
craft show.
base? Oh, so there enters the craft shows.
So I, from 2008, when I first really started trying to do this stuff,
Mhm.
to 2000, well, I still do craft shows. I don't do a ton, but like I still do them.
Mhm.
So I did craft shows from Dallas, Fort Worth, Kansas City to Philadelphia to Miami, like everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah, so I did the year I bought my first house, I did 36 in a year. The
Holy
second
crap.
or the year before I did the year I bought did that. Like for several years I did at least 2 local shows a month, the craft
Yeah.
festival fairs, and one travel fair festival. I was hustling.
Today's episode is sponsored by Athena Outfitters. Athena Outfitters is a quality workwear brand for hardworking women that sells everything badass beauties need to get the job done, from work boots to basics. They curate the toughest essentials made to help you perform. Every piece is handpicked to seamlessly slide right into your daily lifestyle, from rugged and roguish weekday wear to effortless weekend flair. You can fill your closet with gear that can do it all. So for Christmas, I ordered my wife like a very nice pair of slippers from Athena Outfitters, and she loves them. Loves them so much that she has accidentally gone to the gym and the grocery store in them because they seem to never leave her feet. So definitely a place to go check out, go get the goods that help you not only out in the shop, but just in your daily work around the house and outdoors. As a listener of the podcast, you can go to Athena Outfitters website and use coupon code MM as in M&Ms 15 for 15% off any purchase. So again, you go to athenaoutfitters.com and use the code MM15 and get 15% off of your purchase at checkout. How big
And
of
so
stuff are you taking today?
things that one person should not move alone. I would move probably a ton every weekend.
I will say I've done like 2 craft shows, or like art fairs, and then like a few pop-ups. And that was like really early on. And I just got to a point like, I mean, I wasn't making my money back, that I was investing because for people who listen to the episode, I don't know if everyone is aware, like you have to buy the booth, right? Like, yeah,
So much expense in
yeah,
doing,
yeah,
and so
and
it's very risky.
it is. And in order to get to like, I still have yet to get into a show where it's like people who are coming to that show can actually afford like what I sell. So I was like, I don't have the money to invest like, the low point $1,500 up to like $5,000 to get where I need to be to get to the perfect clientele. I'm like, I don't have that up front. Like I
And
just don't.
money to apply, and it costs
Yep.
money to like build your booth setup,
Yep.
and it costs money, like the whole thing. So I, because I do really weird stuff, and I have
Mm-hmm.
for the whole, like I okay, my local show was Jazz Fest, which was really, really lucky. And if you can ever guess, it's just worth every fucking penny. Because like I would make between $10,000 and $25,000 in a weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes
Yes.
I think, no, $25,000 at the show, but then I would almost always get like
A few
a
clients after that.
commission
Yeah.
at least, and it would often like coast my year along. And then
Right.
people keep calling me after that. And I've developed wonderful relationships through some festivals with continual clients and
Mm-hmm.
like building that relationship. And like the good thing, like the project that I'm working on right now is actually for some people who have been buying work since 2013 from me. They are true patrons.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate them so much. They are fucking freaks. I love them so much. Um, I love them.
Yeah.
They're so cool. And so like craft shows are really hard.
Yeah.
Not gonna like there's no hiding that.
No.
But there's this really supportive and inspirational community that does them, and everyone is a fucking freak. You have to be a freak to do it. And
Mm-hmm.
it's I was definitely out in left field.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Like usually people have a person that they bring, and I
Yeah.
would occasionally bring a friend, and she's always great, but like it's not always convenient. And like if I'm worried about the money, how am I gonna pay her? And
Right. Well,
you know,
yeah, that whole thing. I mean, my thing was too, like, I mean, when I started my business, 5 years ago, like I had littles. Like my oldest was, 3, and my
oh my, I
youngest,
have kids. That's the
yeah,
thing. Like
yeah,
I don't I what I'm able to do is partially possible because I don't have any responsibilities.
yeah.
And so big ups to you as a parent, like doing creative, like having a
Yeah.
creative practice.
I mean, it's just, yeah. And then, I mean, honestly, like I said, I wasn't getting to the clientele. And after moving, like all my stuff is, I mean, I'm power carving, like, huge logs. I'm making big furniture. Like none of it's like little. I might bring like some coasters if I was like trying to put something out that somebody could like grab and go. But I'm like, who is coming to an art show to buy a table? Like, I just don't know that client who's coming to an art show to like buy a table. And so after like so many of doing those, and maybe getting like, I did get the occasional sale or like later, right? They'd grab my card and they'd call later so that they could get delivery out of me. But like,
That.
I do
I
charge now. I've learned my lesson. I charge for delivery. But
at least
it's like, but it's just like, it was like, okay, it's time away from my family. My kids are little. Like, so I wasn't traveling. I also wasn't like really traveling to shows because I was like, I want to be able to drive home like at the end of the show and be there with my kids. So as they get older, like now they're like an age, I could be like, okay, your little butt's gonna sit here and you're gonna take money from people. That's how you're gonna do.
I think that my mom brought us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would bring me. I'm the oldest, and so she would bring me, and then she would bring my brother. Wasn't so interested, and he was just such a good kid that they could like let him go and be with his
Yeah.
friends and
Yeah.
not sweat it. Different about me.
Yeah.
But like I would go, and I love the artists, and like I think that when I see, as a person who doesn't have kids, and I see kids at the art shows, like I want to be their friends and I want to give their parents money because like it's hard. I
Yes.
know. and and I think like I don't know, having grown up doing it,
Yeah.
I did not want to do it as an adult, and then I ended up doing it. But my mom did let me buy her tent for really cheap. So,
There you
so
go.
now I'm like not really doing outdoor shows. I kind of started drawing a line a
Yeah.
couple years ago. I was like, I will do Jazz Fest, which is outside, but I don't need to bring my own tent.
Right.
because it's like my home show.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm not going to Fort Worth again because they're like, when I was there, tornadoes. I had 2 killer days and then tornadoes.
Yeah.
You can, when it rains and like, oh my God.
Yes. Yeah.
It's so risky. And like, for me, for a long time, the risk paid off.
Mm-hmm.
Enough that I was fine to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You come back with a couple grand, you're like, yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Like, or several grand more than you left with.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't come back with anything in your van, and that feels excellent. When you're like, oh, cry for me, I sold out. You know, like that. It was good. And I learned about clients, and I learned about pricing, and I learned about standing with my price.
Mm-hmm.
And I also learned about throat punching people who grab me. Very good skill. It's a surprise.
I also struggle with the whole, I mean, if I did throat punching, I know I would end up throat punching way more people than like is, you know, culturally like accepted. Because
There's
I guess
there was
people that are like,
one time, it was only one time when it was a very, very drunk, very large man, and it was late at night in Kansas City. And I was so tired, and it was so crowded, and I was just like, you can't grab me like that. This is not consensual. So I will perform another non-consensual act. Because I had already asked him to leave.
Right. Well, and to me, that's like absolutely like, yes, you should have done that action. I'm talking even though like, it's like I get the, you know, the straight couple that comes in and, you know, the wife's like enamored with like my work and the husband's just standing there the whole time like, I can make that. I can make that. I could do that. I could do that. And I'm like, but you're not fucking gonna do it, are you? So like, back off.
With your next 15 years, you're gonna learn how to do this and buy a hammer like that.
Right.
You know. Do it. Sure, you're gonna put that in the garage. I'm sure you are. Fortunately, so like I very luckily have gotten past in my practice and with clients, gotten past where people will be like, oh yeah, like when people are like, oh yeah, I'm a blacksmith, I'm like, I'm so glad. Like, what do you make? And they're like, I make these hooks. I'm like, good, keep it up, you know?
Yeah.
I get a lot of people being like, I want to wait for your husband. And I'm like, I don't.
Yes.
You can wait for him if you want. I'm not.
Right. Yeah.
You could just talk to me since I made it. You know, it says Rachel David up there. My name tag says Rachel David. It's interesting. I occasionally respond really well and occasionally don't. And I'm trying to figure out how to respond. Like I can be very, very funny sometimes, which really helps. And I've gotten some sales out of it, you know? But sometimes I just like when it's the end of the day.
You don't feel like it.
Sometimes a woman that I'm like expected who looks, you know, not total Karen, but like she's the worst. Like someone was like, you know, you should really shave your armpits. And I was like, you know what? You should not tell me what to do with my body.
Right. Right.
She's like, well, you would smell less. I'm like, if I stood in a parking lot in the summer less, I would smell less too.
Yeah. throwing that out there. Yes.
It's just like, wow, the way you feel entitled to talk to other people is shocking.
Yes.
And not, but also don't talk to me like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have to pack up after this.
Yeah. I realized from, I worked as a cashier and then as a lifeguard in high school. And I learned through those experiences that I don't like people. So, like, in general, I don't really like dealing with the general public. And so that's like the other definite barrier to me for like shows, like, craft shows, art shows,
They're
because
not everyone.
no, and it's like I have to, like, I'm also naturally an introvert, so just like finding the energy to like show up in that space is a lot just to get there, and then like having to have that energy like constantly while talking with people, and especially with people who are probably at least half the time very rude.
Same thing over and over. And like people are always going to ask people who they don't expect to be doing this work, oh, how did you get into it?
Right.
And you say the same thing over and over. And I'm not trying to convince you that it's something to try, but I kind of am, because I think that is like
I mean, it's valid. It's definitely valid.
But like,
I will say,
figure out it's some kind of drag, some kind of costume, that really helped me.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
dress up, because like I wear a t-shirt and
yeah.
shitty ass clothes all the time, rotting off my
Yep.
body. But no, I have like my show clothes and they look foxy, and like I have my drag, and like I go and then I get wasted and sleep in my van at night and wake up,
Ready
rinse
to,
oh, wet wipes, and go for it. I think that for me, that was doing those shows, also kind of bringing it back to like the practice.
Yeah.
It like really helped me actually practice, like making work, doing design work, always being drawing every day, always being trying to fit something else in, trying to do some experiment. Like that's how I learned. And because I'm such a physical person, because I'm so tactile, and I can't really, like, everything is the first time for me in a way. The doing those shows really allowed me to figure out what was happening. Like I couldn't get a job with someone the way a lot of my colleagues have. Like it just didn't work. Like I didn't feel safe, and I didn't feel I didn't want to put myself into situations that were potentially like I had done a couple jobs with other people when I was much younger, and then I had some pretty awful experiences where I felt distinctly unsafe and unwelcome, and like I had to argue to get paid and had to like do all this stuff. And so I just like stopped, because I was kind of like, I love my friends, kind of just want to be there. Like, I'm just going to try this this way that like my mom did. So like,
right. Yeah.
And now that I have practice, now that I have things, like I worked for a couple of people who I really, really enjoyed working for and learned a lot from, but 10 years ago, they wouldn't have hired me for shit.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have felt confident enough. I mean, I still was like, would have to amp myself up to go to work.
Yeah.
But like, not because I didn't love just going and getting into it, but because it was like, oh my gosh, all these people are so talented. And like, I worked for this company in Philadelphia, and like the fabricators, they're just simply magical. Like well, if I could have watched those guys work and like learned what they were doing, like simply magical.
Mhm.
Um, that was a very cool, job. Very stressful, very cool though. I love the challenges.
Mhm.
Um,
I
but I
think,
love thing.
yeah, I think I mean, one point I want to hit before I say this comment was like, I will say I learned one way to get around having to say I'm the one who made this and like explain how I got it, all of that by creating YouTube videos. And if the place had Wi-Fi, I would bring like my smart TV and I would just loop my YouTube. So
You're
when they would come up to the space, and it's like I could watch it. It's like the dude who would have been like, I can make that myself, or I can do that myself. It's like that dude. Like he starts off standing like way back, lets his wife come up, and you can see he's just watching the YouTube. And like
oh,
you
I know.
get a little closer and a little closer and a little closer until he would come up then and be more like, that's really cool. Like, how'd you learn how to do that? So like it was no longer questioning my skill set. It was more like understanding, no, I am an expert and everything you see here is worth every penny that I'm trying to charge for it. So I will say like that's the tactic I took because I got tired of like, I'm not explaining myself to you anymore. Like you should take the fact that all of us who are here in this space know what the fuck we're doing. Like we have spent the years to learn all of this shit. So that's the tactic I took.
Like I watched some of your videos because I was just trying to
Yeah.
prepare and like get to know you in a way that's like, oh, I don't know. I value technology so much and I see so much goodness, like all of this Zoom stuff and all of these
Yes.
interviews
Yeah.
and like, oh my God, it's so cool. I just like, I've never gotten like going
Yep.
back to before, I've never gotten into like being a face next to my work
Yeah.
because
Yeah. It was, I mean, the face
what's
next
that
to your work, like you're
sweaty,
not, no,
filthy mug.
no, but no, you're not alone. Like so many artists, so many craftspeople, like we get into it because of the work, right? Like I'm here to make the thing. Like that's all my focus is. And I created this thing and it's basically like an object that's my baby because I put all of this work into it. And so I want all the eyeballs on that. Like I don't look at me, look at that. Like I get that. However, I think I've learned through social media predominantly that like the people who are buying our stuff, yes, they think that thing is cool, but they want to know the person behind it.
That's part of what they're investing in.
Yes. Yeah.
And like I recognize in a major way
Mhm.
because of relationships that I've built with some special clients. Um, I just also see so many of my colleagues kind of grossly capitalizing on the fine specimens of humanity they happen to be. And that's something that makes me distinctly uncomfortable and also excluded. Not that I'm not like a fine specimen of
Right.
humanity. I'm just not like gonna take my shirt off and swing a sledgehammer in
Right.
public.
Right.
Not gonna happen. I will swing a sledgehammer.
Right.
I will fully and modestly clothed doing it because make any comments about me.
Well, I
Because like
mean, it's the whole I love when I get to use these words. It's the whole misogyny of it, right? It's the like it's those I don't know if you're talking about men or women, but if it's women, it's like the women
oh,
feel like they have to. Yeah,
I mean it's everyone,
yeah.
but like in
But I mean,
black
it's like they think they
there are
have to in order to get the sale. You know what I mean? It's like the idea of like,
a beauty.
yeah,
Yeah, I see that. I guess like what I'm referring to is kind of this gladiator-esque,
Mm-hmm. I can see that. Yeah. Yeah.
macho. Most of my colleagues also are wonderful at, like, I would say, okay, 30% of my colleagues, my friends in my field, are beautiful humans.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, really wonderful, supportive, mostly men, though I have a lot of, like, I would say 75% of the women in the field are my friends, and certainly as many non-binary and trans
Yeah.
people in the field that can feel comfortable coming into the field. I want to be friends with you.
Right. Right.
Like, I have for my life made it my business to know people like me in my field, but there just aren't that many. There aren't that many people in the field. Like,
No.
there's 500 blacksmiths in this country.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
so
and there is a lot of like there's a good friend of mine, and I'll leave her name out of it just because of what I'm going to talk about, and I don't want people to bug her about it, but like she's shared with me experiences like she's getting into blacksmithing, right? So it's like she's doing different
tell her about
small.
SIB.
Yeah.
Tell her
Yes,
about the Society of Inclusive Blacksmiths. It's like my
I will.
baby.
Yeah. But she is like, she's getting into it, and just like some of the classes she's had and talking about like the men who are taking the same classes, they're at the same level as what she's at, right? Who are totally gaslighting her and like invading her physical space, getting back kind of to what you talked about, like she not feeling safe, right? And having to get through that and reach out to community to get support, just moral support of like, no, you're not wrong. You didn't see that wrong. That person was being a douche. Like, that is what that person was being like, and trying to just validate like her feelings on it.
I
And
have
yeah.
I have been demonstrating alongside a person who has had a lot of uh, advantages in this life.
Mm-hmm.
We are colleagues. We were demonstrating at the same place on the same stage for the same amount of time as equal demonstrators.
Mm-hmm.
And this person will not acknowledge me as a human, will not say that there are, runs a school, will not say that there are advantages that some people in this world have over other people, does not see a need to hire people who have been put at disadvantage because of who they
Mm-hmm.
are, the skin that they walk around in. We'll hire people who absolutely dismiss that as a issue in this world, pretty much exclusively.
Yeah.
Like, I wish that it wasn't so, I wish that I didn't feel like it was so important to support any venture by anybody,
Yeah.
because I feel like it's so important. But I wish that I could actively be like, hey, that's a really cool thing. It's not the safest place to go.
Yeah.
Like, maybe try this other place. And I think that SIBS does a good job. Let me just give a little background on
Yeah.
SIBS, because I really, really feel like it's and it's really important to talk about on any platform I'm ever afforded. SIBS is a Society of Inclusive Blacksmiths. I'm one of 3 co-founders with Ann Bujold and Lisa Geertsen. And we have been expanding a lot recently. We do mentorship program, which our third round is just starting. It's a very cool program for anyone who either wants to share knowledge or get knowledge. And I love it. I was a mentor last time. I'm going to be a mentor this time. It is super special. And then we also fund scholarships, and we partner with different organizations who see our mission as a valid and important mission to collaborate with. And so our website is this inclusiveblacksmiths.com, and we are on Instagram and Facebook at the same.
I think
I
that's
am
actually how I found you.
Awesome. I am not the moderator of those because I run a business and can barely keep my head above water. But we have like our governance committee is full of very cool people who are super devoted, and I just like can't say enough. Like if a listener is interested, SIBS is a really great resource, and we work really hard to just like help you work hard. We work hard, you suffer. Less. Voluntary suffering.
And I'll include the link to that in the show notes, as well as the link to your stuff. So
thank you.
Yeah.
It's a really, I wish that it existed 20 years ago. It's like one, I also think that we started it in 2017. We started really working on it, the three of us. And it's really wonderful to see so many like Crafting the Future kind of started alongside. I mean, they had more institutional support than we've had. And I hope that, I mean, I'm friends with Annie, and I hope that we do stuff moving in the future together.
I recently just had Annie on the podcast, so yes.
Oh man, you're getting to talk to such cool people. I've been really enjoying.
Why do you think I do this? I tell people it's very selfishly motivated a lot of times. It's just because I want to talk to cool people.
I respect that. I do things. I mean, like, I definitely, yeah. I mean, a lot of the most generous things that people do are kind of self-motivated, even though it's also not. It is.
Right.
And it's wonderful. And because like we all been like, if something is self-motivated that is also mutually beneficiary, like fuck, that's rad. Like
Hey makers, today's episode is sponsored in part by toolmomstore.com. At toolmomstore.com, you can find any and all tool-based merchandise for all genders, all sizes. They've got mugs, they've got shirts, all kinds of cool stuff. I have one of the shirts myself that has the hashtag woodworkher on it. And I also have a couple of the mugs that define what and who is a tool chick. So super excited with the merchandise that I have. I know that you will be satisfied as well. And also great discount for those of you who listen to the podcast. At checkout, if you enter the code MAKERMOM, you will get a 20% discount off any of the merchandise that you buy. So that's just toolmomstore.com. All right, let's head back into the action. We are getting close to the end of our time, and I realized because I am pushing myself to get better at doing this. I didn't ask, how do you identify?
Oh, she, her.
Okay.
Thank you for asking.
Yes.
Also, like, happily misgendered and androgynous and
Okay.
So I mean, like, I love being misgendered and surprising people. You know, it's like sometimes I find it hard and surprising, but like that's something that is like, as someone who is androgynous by nature, and I feel like I get to help people by like being an ally in like supporting, you know, even though I'm cis identifying,
right.
I can just like make it more normal,
right
to be like, oh, this person looks like this. That doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Nope. Yeah, it stopped. It used to for a long time bother me when I would get misgendered and called sir. And then it just stopped bothering me. Now I just get bothered when people apologize. I'm like, I don't care. So like, just take my
Well, I
order.
think
Like,
it's
I'm
also,
not.
I think some people, I like it when they're surprised. And then I also like it when they do apologize because I know that some people would feel much worse than I do.
True.
And so I want to help create a culture that cares that they might make someone feel bad, right?
But again, it's to your point, like they were calling me whatever gender based on looks. And so, like, they
Right.
weren't apologizing because I corrected them on my gender. They were apologizing because they realized I have boobs. Like, that's why they were apologizing. So, in a sense, they could have been just misgendering me twice, if that makes sense. Like calling me sir and then correcting and being like, no, I'm sorry, ma'am, and it's like, either way, like you actually like
I
have
find
no
myself
idea.
using either way
Yeah.
a lot in those interactions.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of interesting also. And like having a lot of non-binary friends
Mm-hmm.
and working with as like prioritizing hiring people like
Mm-hmm.
genderqueer people
Yep.
if possible, which is really kind of hard.
Mm-hmm.
But it's it's something that like I try to just be supportive and like
Yeah.
if someone feels a certain way that especially if I'm working with them and we're at a job or something, like I really just kind of want to make sure it's like safe. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't hire many men because it is too confusing for a person, and like that person ends up feeling crappy because the contractor or the homeowner always goes to them and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about, this is not my job,
Right.
I'm just day labor.
Yeah.
Like, this is all on Rachel, like this is
Right.
Rachel like
Right.
don't. So I mean, like I have a dear like big brother friend who I hire a lot. He's like around all the time. He's super talented. And he's like, this is not me.
Mm-hmm.
Don't give credit. And that's like all you can ask because what
Yeah.
are you supposed to say, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's my goal is to get to a point where I hire myself first full time. Because that's still definitely not, my situation. That's my number one goal. My number two goal is to be able to grow to hire others. And I kind of only have one real strict rule with that, and that's no white cis het men. That's pretty much my only rule for like who I'm gonna hire.
I mean, because I mean, having
But I see I mean, Blacksmith
very
world, there's not a ton.
there's very few.
Yeah.
I was so spoiled. My helper, my first regular employee is another person you should definitely know about, Sachi Nasatir.
Okay.
Whew, I got so spoiled with them. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. They are just that. Ugh. I am so spoiled. Not only were they like a fabulous, open-minded, open-handed hard worker, they were a great chaperone for someone who needs a chaperone fairly regularly. And it just like was really like I got to very honestly hire someone who was so talented who like also met my desire to not hire a cishet white dude. Like,
Yeah. Yep.
it was really nice.
Yes.
It's really like because the work that I'm doing is not basic and I'm very particular.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's hard to because of all of the assorted pipeline problems in blacksmithing um, that I could spend hours and hours talking about if you're interested. But it's hard for me to hire someone who is qualified, who I feel like I should be hiring. So I'm trying a person next Monday, but they're also like, they have a full-time job and I respect that they want to do metalwork and I want to support them doing metalwork by hiring them and giving them opportunity. But I also like know that they're new at it and like try and learning. And I'm like, how do I incorporate that and pay someone? Like I prioritize paying people fair, right? Like
Mhm.
I don't, everyone starts at 15, no
Mhm.
matter everyone. I mean, you could like, that's the minimum I will
Yeah.
allow
Yeah.
anyone to get paid in this building. I mean, you can go up higher, you start higher. If you,
Right.
I would really like it when people are very skilled. Like I want to pay people whatever. I
Mhm.
wish I had all of the money in the world because I would just pay it all. Like whenever I get, yes, I hire myself. I don't get
Mhm.
paid as my employees, but like they're really important. Nothing that I've done and recently would have been possible without like open-minded, amazing help. And like that's something that I would like to hear people talk about a whole lot more. It's like how important like you can only make what the people who you bring on can make, right? Like if
Yep.
you don't have talented help, you're not going to be able to make the work that you envision unless you're making it all yourself
Right.
or
Correct.
figure out a way, right?
Mhm.
And I just would like to hear, yeah, I feel like I just did this talk for because I won an award and it came down to like I felt when I was really like searching through for my thesis, it really came down to like how amazing the people are that surround me. Like I have a lot of concept heavy work,
Mhm.
um, talking about the environment, talking about restraints and colonialism and like
Mhm.
all this stuff. But like I can only make that because Sachi would come over and happily punch holes while I freak out every minute, right? I just be like, I'm gonna hit that thing where you put it. Ready? Like, and that's really, really special.
Yeah.
That's so special. And so that's like, that's it,
Mhm.
right? And I just feel like that deserves a million. Like I can't when these companies are just like, we can't afford it. It's like you would not do anything without your workers. Also,
Exactly.
like fuck a bunch of capitalism. That's me. But still, Jesus, it's like
Mhm.
I see this. And this is my solution.
Yep.
Whatever it is, I'm one person. I would love to hire. I have the only people I have full time, like really fully are, I have a bookkeeper and a CPA. If I didn't have, I would not be a business.
Yes. I also understand that.
Like that is hard work. That
Yes.
is not me.
Yep. Exactly. 100%. Okay.
What do you have any other guiding? I feel like this is really lovely and I could talk to you for a long time. It's so nice. And like talking about practice and
Mhm.
talking about um kind of I don't know about the revolutionary aspect of what it is. I really attribute like a lot of I see and have had recent experiences um of my personal self that is telling that to me that this we have a long way to go.
Mhm.
um, I had a very sad experience recently, but I also feel like podcasts like this and hopefully your listeners feel like um there is some kindness out there. It's unfortunately fewer and farther between than I would like, but like I think SIBS is a really good hub for metalworking, and Metalsmiths for Change. That's a really cool organization. And Snag is trying really hard. I think they have a lot of flaws, but like as a national organization for metal workers, like they're trying, really trying. Don't go to a
I
band.
think we need to see a bit of that revolution in woodworking. There's societies out there that, like you said, like national organizations that are trying.
Like Furniture Society, what do you think about them? Are they trying?
I'll take this part off the interview. I think,
Well,
I think they're trying.
Has they been supportive of me?
Yeah,
And
I think they're trying. I 100% think they're trying. I don't know. To me, I don't know how I feel about it, because it still feels like a lot of white women trying to do the right thing and not being able to put their finger quite on it. Like I have several interactions with them. I have good friends who are members of the Furniture Society, and they've asked me several times to become a member and join their community. And all I can say right now is I have to follow my gut on these things. And my gut is still telling me, like, this is not the space for me to put my energy into, because it would still require a lot of education. And sometimes I'm just too tired to do the fucking education anymore. And so like, I would rather put, like, I have a membership to Crafting the Future. Like, I would rather put my money and my energy into supporting spaces that already get it and don't feel as performative. Like, Furniture Society feels a little bit performative to me.
I see these, like, I'm going to call it heritage organizations.
Yes.
I feel you on that, where it's just like they're flogging it because they don't want to die, because
yes.
because they have been valuable for people, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But man, I've been just so kind of devoted. Like the kids are so fucking cool. Like, I feel like everyone over 35 should really just step back. Like we are fucked. We've just, like, the kids are so cool. The kids are so fucking cool.
They are. Yeah, no, absolutely.
They are like, I watch, oh, I'm getting goosebumps. I watch my friends' kids and they're like, all of them are incredible. I mean, granted, my friends are fucking rad. Like really caring and aware and like parents in this way that I'm like, oh shit, what would I have been like if you were my parents? Like, think about the freaks that are gonna happen. It's gonna be so cool. But like, oh God, baby boomers really.
No, yeah. I mean,
stop.
Yep.
It's okay to be a wise elder.
Yes,
it's actually much more charming.
Yes, it is. So, I mean, that's just my feeling about, but it does make me think, like, when you're talking about like inclusive blacksmiths, I'm like, I really cannot add more to my plate. Yes, I deeply feel like a thing that just like turned inside to go, okay, Katie, like, that's the next step. That's like the next thing of like, creating kind of more of the inclusive woodworking space. So I really prefer the term maker. Like that's what I've identified with more. Because when you say woodworker,
I'm a metal worker.
yeah,
I am not strictly a blacksmith,
yeah,
but that's not part of like at least for us, the emphasis is on forging.
yeah,
But like with making, there are some really like, especially in urban places, I think
yeah,
that there's like in Houston, there's this really cool trans inclusive makerspace
yeah,
that like it's just like there's an explicitity that is valuable, I think, where you're like, we are explicitly inclusive to these kinds of people,
right,
because like that's makes it feel safe. And like in terms of, it's hard. So as a white woman, I often feel like, what am I supposed to do other than like push this thing? And yeah, I don't want it to be for performative, and I don't
yeah,
want it to be
yeah,
like, oh, just like this well-meaning white lady doing this
right,
thing.
right.
But I am a well-meaning white lady,
Mm-hmm.
and I am just going to do this thing. And if I can like amplify and uplift as many people of color and makers, and like,
There's a
if I,
difference though, right? There's like well-meaning white lady who continues to center their own voice versus well-meaning white lady who actively works to center the voice of others.
yeah, and that's like what, like, I guess that I am trying to, because like I I get a platform like this, I get a
Mhm.
platform like whatever, like I'm gonna try to be like, oh, if I can't, like if I was asked to do this thing where like I wanted to do it really badly. It was a really
Right.
cool idea, but like I didn't, I had already gotten scheduled, and so like was like, you should ask this person, being
Mhm.
like a ripping talented artist, also queer woman of color.
Mhm.
Like that's, I will do my part to
Mhm.
like make sure that every opportunity goes
Yep.
to,
Yep. Absolutely.
but also sometimes those aren't the right, like sometimes it feels like I have to be really aware that that person wouldn't feel bad being put in that situation, and like make sure that that's the intention, is that of the program, that
Right.
it is intentionally not going to like make someone feel tokenized.
Correct.
And
Correct.
so like that's something that I would like, I think that as inclusive blacksmiths we do our best, but because there's so few opportunities and so few people even doing it, and like why are we doing it, it's like really consumptive, it's really bad, it's like super hard work, like there's a reason it's obsolete,
Yeah.
like what's the point, like what are we doing, what are we trying to get people to do?
Mm-hmm.
None of it really makes that much sense, but then it's also just like there is a joy, and like the joy is what to share.
Yeah. And I,
Cool.
again, I could talk with you forever as well, but I have a commitment coming up. So I'll let you
I'm supposed to
share.
go to
Yeah, I'm gonna let you share like again how people can like find you and follow along with all your work. Um, so I can include all those links.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. It is a true pleasure, and I hope that we can connect. Can you remind me where you're located?
I'm in Iowa, so middle of the country. Yes.
I've been there. My grandfather was a statistics professor at Iowa University in Ames. So
Ah,
yeah,
okay. He was a cyclone. That's where yeah.
we, but I've been there.
You've been there.
Uh, so my name is Rachel David. My website is redmetal.net. My Instagram is at __ red metal __ something. Um, the Society of Inclusive Blacksmiths is at Inclusive Blacksmiths. I just did a talk that you can see on YouTube that's connected on the James Renwick Alliance. And I will be doing some very cool projects with them for their collection this coming year, which feels really special, and I'm going to cry about it because it's crazy. And then what else? Crafting the Future, always good to amplify. CTF at CTF.
Yep.
And then Metals Miss for Change.
Okay. Awesome.
I so appreciate your time.
I appreciate your time. Thank you. All right. So again, that was Rachel David. I'll include the links on how you can follow along with her and her work specifically, as well as the links on how you can follow along with Inclusive Blacksmiths, which she is a part of. Be sure to follow along with the podcast over on Instagram at Crafting a Revolution. And if you like today's episode, be sure to subscribe and like on your podcast app. And you can find the show notes for today on your podcast app for today's episode. If you happen to be watching this on Freeman Furnishings YouTube channel, you can check the description box down below, or you can head on over to freemanfurnishings.com/podcast to find this episode's show notes as well as all the past episodes. If you enjoy the podcast and would like to support it in a monetary way, you can head on over to patreon.com/crafting a revolution, and that gives you an option with different tier levels to support on a monthly basis and get your name added to the list at the start of the episode for every episode. If you would like to support in a monetary way, but with just a one-time donation, please again follow along with the podcast on Instagram at Crafting a Revolution and head there to link in the bio, and there's an option to give a one-time donation there. If you would like to support the podcast, not necessarily in a monetary way, please make sure to share about it on Instagram and tag the podcast at Crafting a Revolution. If you enjoy listening to your host, go ahead and check us out over on Instagram as well. You can find myself, Katie Freeman, at Freeman Furnishings, where I am either power carving, shop dancing, pouring resin, or doing all sorts of crazy things. And you can check out my co-host, Katie Thompson, over at Women of Woodworking on Instagram, as well as her additional project, Pen and Chisel, also on Instagram. So go check those out, say hi, follow along with us. We always enjoy interacting with those who enjoy the podcast. Okay, so next week we'll be back with 2 brand new episodes. And in the meantime, as always, let's go craft a revolution.